Things just took a major turn for the Bengals as ahead of their big game on Sunday. We have some huge injury updates to go over today surrounding Trey Hendrickson, Joe Burrow, but one surrounding Joe Flacco that has fans very concerned. We're going to break down exactly what this update is and discuss how it impacts like I mentioned, not only a critical game Sunday, but a must-win game. Ton to go over, and you're going to want to stay tuned till the end because things just took a pretty big turn surrounding Joe Flacco. But before we get into it all, quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. Your guys' support has been absolutely unbelievable, and hopefully the Bengals can make a push here. But regardless, your guys' support's been great. Isaac, some news to go over today. Now, if you watched our video yesterday or your video this morning to a degree as well, we know they had problems with the defense, but Joe Flacco has been great, and they desperately need him to play. And we mentioned that he went down with some sort of, injury, went to the tunnel and came back out towards the end of the game last week. But Isaac, things have taken an interesting turn as moments ago, Ian Rappaport reported that Joe Flacco is dealing with an AC joint sprain in his throwing shoulder, and his status is up in the air for Sunday versus the Bears, sources say. Flacco left the loss versus the Jets, and like we said earlier, came back late, and Zach Taylor called him day to day. Now, we have a bunch more comments to go over and some more insight into exactly how he's feeling. But this is not great. Zach did say he wants to play, and that kudos to him for wanting to play. I mean, maybe they'll inject some life. He didn't inject a ton of life in the team, and he has since he came over. Maybe they'll give him some meds and hope that he's good to go. But man, oh man, do they need him to play, because the alternative is something we're unfortunately familiar with in Jake Browning.
Yeah, this is kind of we got to keep our eye on it because, in my opinion, if Flacco doesn't go out there, there's not much confidence they can win this game, and fans are kind of restless with them with losing against the Jets with Flacco. And now you got, even if Flacco goes, he's not going to be 100%. And what concerns me is that's his throwing shoulder. I thought it was his other initially, so that's what my concern is. And like you mentioned, Jake Browning, we'll probably touch on him a little bit more, but yeah, you need Flacco out there.
Yeah, you should reminded me we did lose to the Jets. I was trying to put it out of my memory and put that loss behind me. Yeah, they lost to the Jets, and now you're playing the Bears, who are 4-3, I believe, a much better team than the Jets should be. But football's weird, right? But here's some more information. Here's a pretty lengthy comment from Zach Taylor about how Joe Flacco, how impressed he was with his willingness to go through this week, hoping to play through that AC joint sprain. Of course, we know he's 40, he's a veteran, right? But at the same time, he wants to win, and he's going to do everything he can to do that. He didn't come here to obviously lose. He wasn't here in the offseason. He wasn't invested in our training camp. For him to come in, it would be easy to make a decision. There is no way I'm playing. But he says he got an AC joint, got a bye week next week. Let's heal this thing up. So feel free to read the rest and pause the video if you're watching. But I say there seems to be a very good chance he plays. Now, initially when this report came out before the practice and Zach Taylor's comments, it was pretty pessimistic. I'm pretty optimistic here that he is going to play because of that aforementioned bye week. That's going to be a big week. And then, of course, you're playing some division rivals, Steelers, Ravens, all these teams. At the same time, you could make an argument that you don't want him to go out there and hurt this further, because if that's the case, you're entering a stretch of play after the bye week, after the trade deadline, where it is really tough. And those are actually must-win games. And they do say that we've got a plan in place to see what he can do. So a lot of vagueness here, but he clearly wants to play, and there's been no communication given to Zach Taylor that he doesn't want to play, and he's going to put his all out there. So this is at least encouraging.
Oh, yeah, you got to love it. That's what I think Flacco brings to this team. The offense was sputtering with Jake Browning. I mean, I go back and look at Jake Browning. He threw for a rating of 69. Joe Flacco has been hovering around 100, and he has not turned the ball over. That was Jake Browning's issue. 8 interceptions through 4 games. I mean, 3 of those were in the fourth quarter, mostly of that Jaguars game. But yeah, again, unless Jake Browning just has this renaissance that Joe Flacco brought, some kind of knowledge to him, you don't have confidence. Even Flacco, not at 100%, he just has something about him that rejuvenated this offense. And that was the strength of this team, was the offense with your Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So seeing it sputter with Jake Browning, that's where it doesn't give you a lot of confidence. Great to hear that he wants to go out there and play, though. I mean, that's huge. Like you mentioned, they have the bye week. If they can just get this win, I treat this as a must win because they're sitting at 3-5 right now. If you can win now, worst case scenario, you are still 1.5 out of the division going into the bye, and then you have a rematch against the Steelers. Worst case scenario, if you come in, beat the Bears, come through the bye, get healed up, beat the Steelers, you could potentially be a half game behind the division. I mean, you've got to be ready to go and just treat this as a must win, like you said.
Yeah, if you win this week, you have a trade deadline then, whether they want to go and acquire some help offensively, mainly defensively is where we're looking at here and where the Bengals are looking at. Sorry. They can put themselves with a win this weekend into a spot where they control their destiny to a degree because you're going up against so many division rivals and at least give a chance for Joe Burrow to make an impact. And the injury is reportedly painful, but again, Joe wants to play, and he noted that he played with very little practice time after joining the team, and Browning will be the Bengals starter if Joe Flacco can't go out this weekend. So keep that in mind there. And it's going to be interesting. If there is anything to hold on to here, is that their run game has slowly gotten better. Their offensive line has gotten very much so better, especially in the past few weeks and last week especially. So if Joe Flacco isn't 100% and Jake Browning takes the field, I'm still going to have faith in the team. Do I have faith in Jake Browning specifically? Absolutely not. But you mentioned it. They brought in Joe Flacco specifically to get Jamar Chase the ball, to get T. Higgins the ball, something Jake Browning couldn't do. And he's done that, and we'll see what happens. It would be an interesting storyline to see if Jake Browning is starting, if he throws the ball more to Jamar Chase, and see if he can kind of replicate what Joe Flacco did. But let us know down below what your thoughts are, what your level on a scale to 1 to 10 is of concern, and we'll heart the comments down there. But let's touch on the other Joe. There's a lot of Joes around here. Joe Burrow, his rehab so far has gone, quote, as we hoped, according to head coach Zach Taylor during his press conference today. So I want to get your thoughts on this before we dive into the Trey Hendrickson news. This is obviously very good as well. Everything being portrayed from the team side is positive. The media side is positive. The reporting side is positive. I think if they put themselves in a position to come back here for even, 2 games back of the playoffs with 4 games left or something like that, there's a really good chance if the math, even if it's an off chance that they make the playoffs or a ton of things that have fallen into place. I'm starting to believe now that they're actually going to push Joe Burrow to play a game this season because of the wording that they're using. And they haven't really given a negative update in a very long time, or even more of a cautious update. It's more so been super optimistic. He's not wearing a boot. He's running around in trainers now and running shoes. This is also a fantastic sign here. Things are lining up perfectly if they can win this weekend.
Absolutely. That's what it is. Exactly what you're saying. Everything is lining up. They just need to go out there and execute. That's why that Jets game was so disappointing. They had everything lining up where the Jets had all those injuries. They were at home. The Jets had yet to win a game. Everything was lining up on paper. Hopefully, it's a wake-up call for them because everything is right in front of them. And a lot of fans are saying they should just sell it off. We should just wait for next year. This is an opportunity you take advantage. Like you said with Joe Burrow, I think he's got that competitive edge. He wants to come back. It's a combination of, they certainly want Burrow to be back, but I think he's got that competitive edge. He's wanting to win. You have the potential, like you said, that if they come back and they get the division, they could have a home game in the playoffs, depending on their record, getting a 3 seed or anything like that. I mean, that would be best case scenario at this point. But regardless, the point being, it's lining up that you could come back in the playoffs and have your franchise quarterback and Joe Burrow starting for you. I'm sorry, I will take that any day. Playoffs, everybody resets to 0-0. Have Joe Burrow, the ball is in his hands. Sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare where this division that these Bengals are in is this bad this year. The Steelers are kind of free falling. The Ravens are in a weird spot. Yes, in theory, they can come back and the Ravens could go undefeated the rest of the way. There's also a chance where they continue to struggle, and even with Lamar Jackson back, their defense doesn't do well. You have to take advantage of every chance you can get, and that's something that I think the front office is looking at there. Quickly, before we wrap up here, I want to dive into a couple of things. First of all, the injury report. Again, Hendrickson is questionable. Joe Flacco is questionable. Not too much on there. Matt Lee, Cam Sample, and Marco Wilson also questionable. So we'll keep an eye out on those guys. But Isaac, any quick thoughts heading into the game? Here are a few stats looking at, regarding the Bears specifically. They're playing pretty good football, right? They're 4-3. Yes, they have, their quarterback, Caleb Williams. He could explode. He's had a bit of a better year this year than previous years, like slowly becoming an okay, a pretty solid quarterback in this league. The Bengals, on the other hand, are coming off a loss with the Jets. If there's one thing we can hope is that we look back at that Jets win in a few weeks after they, beat the Steelers, beat the Ravens, and say, okay, this was the turning point they needed. This is the wake-up call. But you have to beat the Bears first before you dive into these divisional games. If they lose this game Sunday, everything we're talking about today, it takes another turn because of the fact that you'd be in a very, very bad spot. Anything to look out for on your end for the against the Bears, of course, assuming even if Jake Browning starts, Joe Flacco, either way, you still have your main core, your main pieces, Noah Fant, Jamar Chase, all these guys ready to go against the Bears.
100% agree. This is going to be a huge game that if they lose, it could change things. I mean, I went on and on about best case scenarios here. You having Joe Burrow back in the playoffs. They're going to have to go out there and win starting on Sunday and start chaining wins together. It was supposed to start back with Pittsburgh when they won on Thursday night and then continue into the Jets game. So they certainly have a lot of questions that need answered. Is that defense going to be able to improve? Because we've talked about it. They've hit rock bottom with that defense. You lose to the Jets in that fashion, you've got to get better. So can they get that timely stop? Because I feel like the Bengals and that offense, as long as Joe Flacco is healthy, they can be with anybody. They can put the points up, but it's going to be a lot of question marks with that defense. Can they just get some timely stops when it matters and ultimately just get the W? Don't try to go out there and be this elite defense. That's the biggest question I have going into Sunday. Trey Hendrickson being questionable, you got to get him back. I mean, you got to get some kind of pressure. If not, somebody else needs to step up, maybe even multiple guys, not just one guy. Somebody get pressure. That's what I'm going to be looking for on Sunday.
Yeah, no practice for Trey today either. Zach said, let's see how he gets through the week. I mean, the funny thing is, you mentioned it, this defense doesn't need to be elite. Like, they just need to be not even, they can be slightly below average, and this team would win more games than they lose because of how good their offense is. Being at the rock bottom of, the defensive rankings is where they struggle. The offense can be the best in football, and with Joe Burrow, it obviously has been at times. Of course, I think back to the Super Bowl run, but even recently, the offense hasn't been the problem. With Joe Flacco, you can still be one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in football, but the defense is absolutely atrocious. And we'll see how they take care of Caleb Williams. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys later.